What's up, guys? You are watching Fight Feed, and today I'm going to be going through all of my picks and predictions for the upcoming UFC Nashville card that's happening on July 12th. We've got the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, coming back. Mr. Balls was hot himself. We're going to see what happens in that main event. You guys are going to get my full picks from the start of the card all the way through the main event and finish of the card. Before I dive into my picks and predictions for this card, I want to say thank you for watching Fight Feed. Please, if you are not currently subscribed, I really would appreciate if you subscribe to Fight Feed, and also engage with this video. Give it a like, give it a comment. Let me know what your guys' thoughts. Even if you hate my picks and you think that they're wrong, I would love to hear from you guys and understand what you're feeling for this fight that's coming up this Saturday on July 12th. Just a quick reminder, if you are new to Fight Feed, so in my weekly pick videos, I have a breakdown for each fight where I go through the tale of the tape, the styles of the fighters, the intangibles and X factors, and the momentum check. The momentum check actually usually comes before the tangibles and X factors, which you will see here in just one moment. So that is how I go through each card. It takes me several hours actually to create this document because I want to make sure I am looking at all of the different data that we all have and crossing my T's, dotting my I's, as they say. Let's go ahead and dive into the full card picks for UFC Nashville that's happening on July 12th. All right, guys, the first fight on the card for UFC Nashville is Fatima Kline versus Melissa Martinez. So in this fight, we've got Fatima Kline, who's 24 years old, 5'6", and with a 24 with a height of 5'6", a reach of 67 inches, 115 pounds, 7-1 record with a 1-1 record in the UFC. Her opponent, on the other hand, Melissa Martinez, age 27, so a little bit older here. 5'2", so she's going to have a decent size disadvantage when it comes to the height. Their reach is negligible with only a 1-inch difference in favor on the Kline side. Now, Melissa Martinez has an overall record of 8-1 with a 1-1 record of the UFC. This is another match make that the UFC is doing where these fighters are kind of in a similar position, young prospects. Jumping into the styles for this fight. So Fatima Kline, she's kind of got a striking, grappling background where she does have strengths with her striking, some heavy shot output on the feet. She does have 40% of her finishes by KO or TKO, but she's also got a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and she's able to mix that game up, I would say, pretty well, especially, I would say, when she's at a size advantage in the fight. We did see her have some issues with that of Jasmine Jasudavicius, but it wasn't like she got submitted. It was a decision loss. It's just she didn't do as well with the grappling, I think, when she was the smaller fighter. Weaknesses, I said, just, she obviously had a loss that came from a decision. So it's kind of questionable whether or not she can always kind of own that pace and own the fight from start to finish against some of the higher level talent. She is going up against Melissa Martinez, who's a striker, has a lot of wins by KO as well. A strong TKO rate overall with 63% of her wins by KO or TKO. She does have southpaw stance, which complicates things on the feet for Fatima Kline. So it'll be interesting to see how Fatima handles that because I think Melissa Martinez is, like I said, an up-and-coming prospect similar to Kline. She's going to want to go out there and get a statement finish if she can. So it'll be interesting to see how she deals with that. Does she mix in that grappling early? Does she try to bang it out on the feet? Weaknesses for Melissa Martinez, though, I just want to say less tested in the grappling side of things. So I think Kline is likely to find some benefits there. Jumping into their momentum. So Fatima Kline is coming off of a 1-fight win streak. She last fought 182 days ago. She's still pretty active here. She got a win over Victoria Dudakova in her last fight, a loss to Jasmine Jasudavicius in the previous, and then she had 2 wins over people that I do not know. So that's that. Anyways, Melissa Martinez, I believe this is incorrect. Look at this. We're already wrong, guys. I believe that Melissa Martinez has a loss in the UFC. So there's no motherfucking way she got a 7-fight win streak. 1 win, 1 win, 1 win. Sorry, guys. Like I said, this takes hours to do, and then you don't check the first one and you've had a mistake. Anyways, Melissa Martinez has a 1-fight win streak, not 7. As it shows here. She last fought 266 days ago. She's a bit less active than that of Fatima Kline. Her last few fights look like this. A win over Alice Ardeline. It's a decent win. A loss to Elise Reed. A win over Desiree Yanez. And then a win over Francis Hernandez. I'm not really sure who those women are. So not really much to write home about there from a strength of schedule standpoint, really, for either fighter, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, Jasmine Jasudavicius is probably the best talent that collectively these women have faced. But that's actually, if I think about it, I believe that's up a weight class. So Fatima Kline might have just taken that opportunity against Jasmine and then now is down in her normal weight class. Anyways, looking at this, we want to take a look at the intangibles and X factors, see if there's any other outlying information that you guys might need for this fight. So Fatima Kline, pressure for her is she's coming off of a loss in the UFC and she had a statement debut in the UFC. So now she's 1-1. I believe that's a red flag, or not a red flag, but it is a bit of pressure for her because she's going to want to get back in that win column and continue to showcase her skills in this division for the UFC. Red flags is just that she could be vulnerable if she's forced into like long grappling exchanges, especially in exchanges where she's the smaller fighter. She's not going to have that issue, I think, in this fight, given that she is more prone to grapple than Melissa Martinez and the bigger fighter. So some other variables that I noted, she's just got a mix of striking and ground finishes. So I think that makes her a bit unpredictable. And I also think that she is evolving her UFC skills and experience. She's still a very young fighter, and so is Melissa Martinez. Kline being 24, she's got a lot of time to grow here. Melissa Martinez, on the other hand, she's not the home fighter. I would say that some pressure for her is she's in the same boat as Fatima Kline. They're both 1-1 in the UFC. They wanted to, I think, go on these streaks, show that they were, the next one up in this division. And so I think that Melissa Martinez is going to have the fire lit under her ass, similar to Kline, to try and go out there and get a win. Ultimately, guys, and I'm going to just give you a little bit more info here. So, guys, if I am looking off to the right, I'm doing my best to not do that, but I just want to call this out that I am obviously looking at my large IMAX screen that's over here. So that is why I do that, and just taking a quick look to look at the different shit that I'm showing you guys. Anyways, looking at these other variables for Melissa Martinez, she does have that southpaw stance, and she does have a high percentage of TKOs in her record. So that could be proved to be a bit tricky for Fatima Kline. But what I like, and the reason that I'm going, here's my pick, I'm going with Fatima Kline because I think that she mixes up the grappling a lot more so than Melissa Martinez, and she's proven that she can get finishes on the ground, not only with the grappling, but also getting her opponent in a bad position on the ground where she can then land shots like heavy ground and pound, getting TKOs that way. So I think she just has more to mix up in this fight to get a win than Melissa Martinez. That's a long-winded way of saying the why. I do think that I'm leaning decision for Fatima Kline, but she might be able to get a TKO with ground strikes in round 2. That's my first pick, Fatima Kline. Next fight on the card, Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis. Both these guys are fucking almost identical here in terms of their statistics on paper. Mitch Ramirez, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach, 155-pound weight class, 8-2 record overall with an 0-1 record in the UFC. Mike Davis, 32 years old, 6 foot, 72.5-inch reach. He's just got a little bit of longer arms here. 155 pounds, 11-3 record overall with a 4-2 record in the UFC. Styles for this fight: Mitch Ramirez is a striker, Mike Davis striker/wrestler. You got Mitch Ramirez. He's got KO power. 5 of his 8 wins are via TKO. He does have finishing instincts, and they're evident in some of these striking exchanges that he gets into. Obviously, you don't get there without, you don't get 5 of your 8 wins by KO by not having that. Some weaknesses for him: he has some leg kick issues, guys. He's gotten KO'd by leg kicks in the past. Moises was actually able to finish him with leg kicks, which Moises used to be really good, guys, but as of late, not so much. Mitch Ramirez doesn't seem to have a lot of decisions go his way, so that is some weaknesses here. Is like, I feel like if this fight is in any way favoring the opposite side, there's a large potential that it doesn't go his way just based on his statistics with decision wins. Now, Mike Davis, very talented fighter. He's got very clean boxing, strong ground game as well. The one thing that is a weakness for him is he has losses from submissions. And I think his last showing was pretty damning in that I feel like he got controlled quite a bit in that fight and just did not have a lot of success whatsoever. So that is a bit scary here coming into this. But prior to that, Mike Davis looked really sound as a fighter. I just think there's a bit of an activity question, before he had the recent wins that he's had in his career. So taking a look at this, we're going to look at the momentum check now. Mitch Ramirez, 1-loss streak. He last fought 483 days ago. His loss was to Thiago Moises due to leg kicks. A couple wins and losses before that. He got a win over Aaron Tavares. I'm not really sure who that is. He did lose to Carlos Prates on the Contender Series. He got caught by one of those fucking hooks from Prates, or it was a straight. either one, you pick. You wake up in a few minutes and you figure it out. And then a win over Jeremy Holloway. Not sure who that is. He's definitely not related to Max. Anyways, taking a look at Mike Davis, 1-loss streak. He did lose to Faraz Zahabi, I'm sorry, guys. Faraz Ziam. I don't know how you say his name. Natan Levy is a win prior to that. And then 2 wins, a win over Vyacheslav Borshev and Mason Jones. Mason Jones is a really good aged win there, considering his recent success. He last fought 161 days ago, so he is a lot more active than Mitch Ramirez. Now, some intangibles and X factors. Looking at Mitch Ramirez, not the home fighter. Some pressure for him is obviously he's coming off of a big layoff and he needs to get a win here, get back in the win column. He's just been pretty inactive as of the last year and a half or so. Some red flags for him is he's going to be susceptible to leg kicks, and then also like some questions about his late fight durability. Does he have the gas tank to stay there for all 3 rounds and stay there with a strong pace? Or is that a weakness of his? I think that we just haven't seen enough yet in the UFC to really understand that. Now, other variables, I didn't have anything else to add here. So Mike Davis, looking at him, American in this matchup. So I guess you could make him the home fighter, but it's not like he's from this area. He is coming off of a decision loss, which like I said, I feel like it lowered his stock, in my opinion, for like the way I would look at his ability to win certain fights. And then I also had a red flag. This is, I did run a few things through AI, so some of this shit could be wrong, guys. But it looks like he did have some injuries, an injury to his bicep recently. And so he might have susceptibility in some grappling exchanges. This might affect some of his power, but we shall see. I do think that Mike Davis is a better fighter from the way he mixes in his striking and grappling. I think that he has a potential to be more dangerous in this matchup. That is exactly why I'm making my pick. And my pick is going to be Mike Davis. I just think that he is the more dangerous fighter. Simple as that. I feel like he has that fight IQ as well to mix things up when he needs to, and also potentially just get a finish on the feet because he does have some decent striking. My confidence level, though, is a 3, so you guys take that for what you will. The next fight on the card, we got Kennedy and Njokuani, I think that's how you say it, and Valter. So looking at Kennedy, 33 years old, 6'5" with an 83-inch reach. He's almost John Jones in this bitch, guys. 236 pounds for his last fight, and then he was 14-5 overall, but with a 8-5 record in the UFC. A majority of those fights taking place at light heavyweight. This matchup's happening at heavyweight. Valter, on the other hand, Johnny Walker's brother, 27 years old, even though he looks like he's aging to be 42, 6'6" and a 78.5-inch reach. So he is one of these guys that has his reach is only half an inch longer than his height. Not the greatest. If you were to make a striking, like fucking, I don't even know. If you were to like make an ideal striker, you'd want those arms that reach to be like 3 inches longer probably than the height. Not a huge deal though. He's 245 pounds. So he's definitely going to have a size advantage from the weight and height side of things. The reach disadvantage though is hefty in this fight. And it's in favor of Kennedy and Njokuani. Now, Valter is 13-1 overall with a 1-1 record in the UFC. So still a bit untested if you're asking me, guys. Now, the next slide here, we go look at styles and how they make this fight. Looking at Kennedy, and he is, like I said, a strong, tall, I didn't even say that yet. He's a tall fighter, okay, 6'5". His reach and speed in heavyweight is going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of these opponents. He's coming up from light heavyweight. If you want to quote Lucas Tracy, the lighter man skill, he's going to bring that into this matchup because he's still technically he's only a couple fights in, and he both of his heavyweight fights, I think, ended pretty quickly. So where I'm headed with this, he has that very strong power in counter striking on the feet. 71% of his wins are by KO. I do think that his 1-2 combos, especially with that 83-inch reach, is going to be an issue for Valter Walker if he cannot get the grappling started. Some weaknesses for Kennedy, though, is that he has suffered some KO losses in his career. Some early stoppages in fights, like the one against Dustin Jacoby. But that was at light heavyweight. And so I think you can maybe chalk those up to, maybe he was in the wrong weight class, cutting too much weight, putting his brain in damage and just getting caught. Anyways, that's just a weakness I'm calling out because he has been tested and caught on the chin. Now, Valter Walker, on the other hand, he has KO power with 6 KO finishes. but he's a strong grappler. And I think that his game is really going to be driven by the grappling. He's going to try to grapple Kennedy. So that's another weakness, though, is like I feel like Kennedy at heavyweight has not really gone up against a strong grappling heavyweight. So that is something to bring into this fight and think about as a matchup. Like, does Kennedy have those skills to stop any of that offensive wrestling that Valter Walker is going to push at him? A weakness for Valter Walker, the guy's lost to Lucas Brzezki. I mean, Lucas Brzezki's lost to everybody. So that's a bit questionable. Momentum check. Kennedy, 2-fight win streak at heavyweight. 217 days ago was when he last fought. He was on the prelims, I believe, of that card. I think it was UFC 308 with Topuria. His last 4 fights, a win over Lucas Brzezki, the only man to take out Valter Walker. A win over Chris Barnett. He beat the shit out of Chris Barnett. Chris Barnett should not have been in the octagon. And then a loss to Ovince St. Preux, which I think was a decision, and then a loss to Dustin Jacoby. Now, Valter Walker, on the other hand, 2-fight win streak. Last fought, he's not on a 2-fight win streak. Fucking hell, guys. Last fought 147 days ago, so he's a bit more active in this case. He has a win over Dontel Mays in his last showing, a loss to Lucas Brzezki before that, and then a win over Junior Tafa and a win over Casio de Oliveira. There you go, guys. Now, intangibles and X factors. Neither one is the home fighter. Some pressure for Kennedy is just, this is a first true grappling heavyweight that he's going up against. And he is riding some momentum here, guys. So he's going to want to continue to ride that momentum, get a KO, get a win here so he can have a 3-fight win streak at heavyweight. I would say some red flags for him is he is vulnerable to early power strikes, especially when he was at light heavyweight. We don't really know how that translates at heavyweight for him because I feel like he hasn't had any dangerous striking exchanges yet where he was caught with, like very solid punches or anything like that. But before he had this run at heavyweight, he had a KO loss that was very, very bad to Dustin Jacoby. Now, with that, I'm going to jump into Valter Walker. This guy, some pressure for him is he is going to want to continue driving that momentum and getting a win streak back together. He was undefeated before the loss to Lucas Brzezki. So he's going to want to get back in that win column, keep building up a new win streak here. I do think that because of his age, he definitely has some benefits there, guys. But some red flags is like he has these split decision losses that kind of hint at like him losing or winning it like by the skin of his teeth. And mainly, guys, ChatGPT fucking blows. Okay, I'm just gonna say, like Valter Walker literally had a loss. I guess it was to Lucas Brzezki, but it's only one loss. It's not like he's had several. Anyways, I don't know why. Like sometimes when I just like copy like one little sentence from them, it's fucking incorrect. Anyways, Valter Walker is like, I just feel like, and the guys, I'm not trying to shit on Johnny, like the Walker family. I fucking love Johnny Walker, even though he's had a lot of bad losses. You start to wonder, like, is there something with their genetics where it's like, he might not be able to like, because he lost to Lucas Brzezki, I question if like, he doesn't find the fight in the realm that he needs it, like he'll lose. And I don't know. I feel like if he doesn't get a finish on the ground against Kennedy, that's where I would just worry. But this is going to be a true testament to, can Kennedy's skills, does he have the wrestling skills to fight off a guy like Valter Walker? I think that's what we're just going to have to find out on Saturday night, guys. Ultimately, I am going with Kennedy N in this fight. He has more experience in the UFC by a long shot. He has that super powerful striking on the feet. I do believe he can catch Valter Walker and keep him at bay or even potentially finish the fight. But I do think he's more likely to land heavy shots on the feet and keep him at bay. That's going to minimize Valter Walker's offensive wrestling, which is where I feel like Valter Walker could win this fight. If Kennedy can land those heavy combos off the rip, maybe even throw in some leg kicks, I feel like he'll keep Valter at bay and he'll be able to just tag him up with that 1-2 and maybe hurt him, get him out of there, or potentially ride out the decision. The decision is likely what I would expect to happen in this matchup. The next fight on the card, guys, we've got Lauren Murphy, the Feral Ghoul, versus Eduarda Moura. Lauren Murphy's 41 years old, 5'5", 67-inch reach, 16-6 overall record with an 8-6 record in the UFC. Now Moura, on the other hand, 31 years old, a little bit younger, a little bit snappier, 5'6", a little bit taller, 66-inch reach, a little bit smaller arms, 11-1 record with a 2-1 record in the UFC. Styles for this fight, guys. So Lauren Murphy's got that weird, like herky-jerky, striking, grappling style that we've all seen. She looks a bit like a feral ghoul. So there's that. Orthodox MMA with some strong BJJ wrestling. I do think that she has an elite ground game. She has well-rounded fights overall, 8 KOs. I mean, weaknesses, slower pace, guys. Like, I think that she's 42 years old. I feel like no matter what, like after, post 40, unless you're Wonder Boy Thompson, which we're going to see if Wonder Boy Thompson still got it too, you start to slow down. And I think we saw that in Lauren Murphy's last fight. She got the shit kicked out of her by Jessica Andrade. And she's just so very hittable. She's very stuck like in cement on the fucking center line. So that's a worry for this fight. Now, Eduarda, on the other hand, she's a striker. She's a fucking strong striker, 4 TKOs. And then she has 5 submission wins as well. So she's a well-rounded finisher. And she has wins over some decent talent like Veronica Hardy in the UFC. Veronica Hardy trains with her husband, Dan Hardy. Very, very a great IQ in the fight game. And, she has a win over Veronica. So that's a very good win, in my opinion. Much less experience than Lauren Murphy, though. So that is something to call out. Momentum check. Lauren Murphy is coming off of a loss. She last fought 538 days ago, guys. It's been a very long time for her since being in the octagon. She lost to Jessica Andrade, but she does have a win over Miesha Tate, and Miesha Tate is still Miesha Tate. A loss to Valentina Shevchenko, where she just got battered in the championship fight, and then a win over Joanne Wood, which I don't know how to rate that. I know John Wood is very good, her husband as a coach, but I know Joanne Wood also kind of had a lot of fights where it was just like back and forth. Like she might win a fight here, lose 2, win. It's just, I don't know. Eduarda, on the other hand, she's coming off of a 1-fight win streak. Last fought 238 days ago. She won against Veronica Hardy, lost to Denise Gomes, which not the worst loss there. If you ask me, Gomes is a very talented prospect as well. And then they went over Ruiz and Silva. Intangibles and X factors. Lauren Murphy, I've already talked about it. She's past her prime at 41. She's not 42. She's turning 42. I feel like she needs a win here, guys, or she's going to get cut or retire. Because I just feel like once you're that age, I don't. If you're not winning, I don't see the UFC really biting to hold on to you. Now, she is in a weird division, though, where it might not be that deep of a division. And even just outside the division, they might not have enough talent to just up and scrap her. But I feel like the UFC has gotten rid of, prospects and non-prospects who are hitting those age marks. Now, red flags for her. She just seems slowed down in her last fight. And like I said, just stuck on the center line, easy to catch on the feet. Now, Eduarda Moura, not the home fighter, but she has a bit of pressure. She is trying to build back that momentum. She's not the youngest fighter in the world, 31, still coming into her prime. However, I think that she is going to be wanting to get a win here to continue getting to those rankings and rising her name in the UFC. I think that she's had a close decision loss. And so it's just the one thing I worry about in this fight, guys, is that Lauren Murphy has that weird herky-jerky gas tank style where she could potentially just make it a bit of a dirty fight, getting in these weird clinch exchanges with her fucking feral ghoul approach and just grabbing the back of the neck and just, I don't know. I feel like I did have a feeling there could be this weird situation where Lauren Murphy just, I don't know, out dogs Eduarda Moura perhaps. Guys, my pick, I'm leaning Eduarda Moura. I think she's going to win. I do think Lauren Murphy's one of those weird styles though that she could sometimes pull a win out of her ass by doing, incorporating that weird style. I think that Lauren Murphy's age is a big factor here, guys. And I also think that her lack of activity with her age is just a horrible combination going into a fight with a girl like Eduarda Moura, who's got finishing potential not only on the feet, but on the ground as well. My confidence in this win for Eduarda Moura, I think she could get a KO or maybe in the later rounds, but potentially round 1. Confidence level 3 out of 5. Tail of the tape for our next one, Jake Matthews versus Chidi and Njokuani. Now, Jake Matthews looks like he could be related to Nicole Kidman. If you looked at Nicole Kidman, he might be descendant of it. I know she's also Australian, so maybe it's just a way for the Australians. They just look similar, I guess. I don't know. 30 years old, 5'11", 73-inch reach, 170 pounds, 21-7 record overall, 14-7 in the UFC, guys. 14-7. And he's only 30 years old. He's only a year older than I am. And he's fucking 14-7 in the UFC. That's fucking crazy. Chidi Bang Bang, 36 years old, 6'3", 80-inch reach, very long reach for welterweight. Last fight missed weight by a pound, 172 pounds, 25-10 record with a 5-3 record in the UFC. Styles for this fight. Jake Matthews is like a freestyle MMA. He's very well-rounded. He has great grappling defense. He's got very crispy boxing and fast, sharp boxing combinations. 8 submission wins as well. So he is no slouch when it comes to taking a fight to the ground. I do think that Jake Matthews, like one thing about him, guys, as a fighter, like whenever I've watched him fight, and this is definitely showing due to the fact that he has so much experience in the UFC, he is this guy that like just appears to like in certain engagements with other fighters, just appears to have that higher fight IQ and like knows where to bring the fight in order to gain control. Even if it's like a fighter who's a weird stylistic matchup, I feel like he's shown good promise there of like finding a way to get a win. He is 14-7 in the UFC though, so he's a 50-50 record right now. A weakness for Jake Matthews, he's only got 5 KO wins. He's not like the most powerful puncher, but he does have very mean boxing combinations. Chidi Njokuani, on the other hand, he's a striker. And I would say for Chidi, he is more of a finisher when it comes to his striking game. Very long, very technical kickboxing and Muay Thai. You know, his brother was like a previous legend of like the second generation of the UFC, like kind of like that era right before, like maybe it was like the same time as like Rampage Jackson, I think it was. I might be wrong there on the dates, but his brother was a very talented UFC fighter himself, and he trains with his brother. Now, what I would say is he is also very long for the weight class. Pause. I did put that little joke there. I thought that was funny. Anyways, weaknesses for him. Not very good ground game from what we've seen. And also, I feel like the way his style is, if I had to say, it's like if he's out there and controlling the pace and making the fight his fight, he does very well and usually can close fights out. What I've noticed, though, is in fights where he is not able to do that and his opponent is like, because guys, there's some fights where it's like that one fighter's in control, right? And then that fighter, if they're in control, like for instance, a Sean Strickland, the way his style is, he gets in control and then like from there, he'll kind of take the fight all the way home and get a win, right? For Chidi, he's had fights where like he didn't necessarily have control, but neither did his opponent. So it was kind of like a trade back and forth. But in the fights where his opponent has control, he wilts quickly. Like in that, I will say, most of those losses where he's wilted quickly happened at a larger weight class. So that could be playing a big role in it. But what I mean in this area is like if you have a fighter who's got that grappling ground game, they could bring him to the ground. I think that's a very bad thing for Chidi and Njokuani. Not so much to worry about in this fight because Matthews is a banger. He likes to stay on the feet. Momentum for these guys. Jake Matthews is a 2-fight win streak and he last fought 154 days ago. Guys, don't look at this shit. He lost to fucking Michael Morales. Sorry, guys. He got a win over Darius Flowers, a loss to Michael Morales, a win over Phil Rowe, and a win over Francisco Prado. Now, in Chidi, on the other hand, 3-fight win streak. 119 days ago is when he last fought. And he's got a win over Zaleski dos Santos. If you don't know Zaleski, he's the dude that knocked out Sean Strickland a while back. I don't know how long ago it was. It was a very long time ago. Jared Gooden and a win over Reese McKee. Reese McKee's back in the UFC, and he looked really good in his last performance. A loss, his last loss, was to Michael Olashishik at middleweight. And Olashishik has been one of those weird guys where it's like he'll lose but then win and like beat certain fighters. It's interesting. Intangibles and X factors. So neither one's a home fighter. Obviously, Jake Matthews from Australia. So really, I think you could say Chidi's a bit of a home fighter here. Pressure for Jake is he's just riding a 2-fight win streak. Will need a good win here just to continue, pushing his name for the UFC and maybe even getting back into the rankings. I don't think he's in the rankings right now. So he's like right there to be in contention for the rankings, if you will. My red flags for Jake Matthews, I think sometimes he can be overzealous on the feet, landing those crispy combos and getting a bit mean and gritty and wanting to hurt his opponent. And I think that could be a red flag here because Chidi is a sniper on the feet and he has a lot of different weapons in the clinch and up the middle with like front kicks and stuff. I think he needs to just be very wary of some of the dangerous attacks from Chidi that could come through. I think that some other variables is Jake Matthews is the younger and fresher fighter, in my opinion. Njokuani, on the other hand, he's older in age, but he's looking to climb into the rankings for the UFC. Age is a question for me, guys, because he is turning 37. He's missed weight a few times. I do question, is it getting harder for him? I think that anatomically it has to be getting harder for him to make weight And that is a bit worrisome, but it does also potentially give him a size advantage against Jake Matthews. So recent weight misses is a big, other variable. And honestly, I feel like with having these recent weight misses, although he's had good wins in his recent fights, guys, he is going up against Jake Matthews. Why is it doing that? He's going up against Jake Matthews, and I just think that Jake Matthews is probably going to be the faster fighter in there, and his striking has looked pretty crispy in recent outings. And I'm picking Jake Matthews. He's got my first name, first of all. He's got youth on his side, and I rate him highly, guys. From his last performance, I thought that his boxing looked really crispy, and I also liked how he was super mean with the combos. He's fucking throwing body shots, throwing those body shots, man. So I got a high confidence that he'll get a 5 confidence. That's high. It's 100%. I think that he'll probably get a win by decision. Okay. The next fight on the card, we've got Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. Max Griffin's 39, 5'11", 76-inch reach, 20-11 with an 8-9 record in the UFC. Chris Curtis, 37. He's turning 38 on July 15th. So he is actually basically 38 at this point. They are fighting on the 12th of July. So keep that in mind. Chris Curtis, though, 5'10", 75.5-inch reach. So he's just a half-inch disadvantage in the reach department, coming down from 185 to 170. So that's a bit of an interesting call-out for Chris Curtis here. 31-12 record with a 5-4 record in the UFC. Fuck. So taking a look at their styles, Max Griffin's a striker, black belt in kickboxing. I don't even know if that's a fucking thing, but it said it online, so whatever. Well-rounded striking for Max Griffin, solid cardio, and he's a veteran of the game. Weaknesses, he lacks that one-punch KO power, and I also believe his chin has faded, guys. I think it's left us. This dude was getting tuned up by Michael Chiesa on the feet. That's alarming. I'm sorry. I love Chiesa, but that's alarming to be tuned up by Chiesa at welterweight. It's just, I don't know. Chris Curtis, striker on the other hand as well. And Chris Curtis actually has some fucking thud in his shots. 48% of his wins by KO. Has crispy boxing. He has very tricky combos on the feet. And I feel like he's able to switch stances a little bit here at times. And I think that Chris just has a better fight IQ overall. And I just think that because he has better combos and he's coming down to welterweight, I feel like he'll have a bit more pop on his shots potentially. Weaknesses for Chris Curtis is just that he can be caught on the feet and he leaves himself open at times. We've seen that in fights, but I don't know that he necessarily has that. I don't know if he's necessarily in danger against Max Griffin at this point. The momentum check for these guys. Now we'll look at the momentum check for these guys. So Max Griffin, 1 fight loss streak. He lost and he last fought 217 days ago. Lost to Michael Key. Win over Jeremiah Wells before that. A loss to Michael Morales prior and a win over Tim Means, Big Bird, before that. Now, Chris Curtis, on the other hand, 2 fight loss streak. 182 days ago is when he last fought. Lost to Roman Kopylov. And honestly, it's not even like a 2 fight loss streak because Chris Curtis fucking beat Brendan Allen, in my opinion. Anyways, 2 fight loss streak, win over Marc-Andre Barrio, and then a no contest to Nasruddin Imavov. Now we'll take a look at the intangibles and X factors. So pressure for Max Griffin. He's getting up there in age. He needs to get a win to keep his spot in this organization. Red flags is just an inconsistent results, guys. I'm really scared that he was tuned up by Michael Chiesa. It's not a good sign for this fight. Nothing really else to note. I just have questions on his durability at this point. Now, Chris Curtis, on the other hand, pressure for him is that he's entering a new division. So because of his age in entering this new division, he needs to get a statement win here to keep himself in the minds of fans in the UFC brass, and also potentially, I don't think he's going on a title run, but just find more success in a lower weight division. So there's a lot of pressure here. He needs to have a good showing. Or perhaps the UFC could be like, you know what, dude, you're at the end. We'll see what happens. Red flags is just that he's been caught in recent fights. His defense has not been there as much as it used to be, I would say. And usually I just think that Chris Curtis has those fights where he's able to win by durability and then just, putting together those combinations from start to finish. And his durability winning him the fight because he can eat what the opponent cannot eat, essentially. Overall, I'm going Chris Curtis, guys. I think that Chris Curtis is a really good fighter. His record absolutely proves that. 12 losses is a lot, but 31 wins is not easy, or 32 wins, whatever it is. Curtis has great skills, guys, and like he's had really good showings in the octagon. I do think that one big factor here, though, is we haven't seen him cut to 170, at least in the UFC. So if his weight cut goes smoothly, I think that this fight goes his way, and I think he finds a finish because I think Max Griffin has been pretty chinny on the feet, but it could go differently if his weight cut's not as good. We have to see what happens. Okay, next fight on the card, we've got Junior Tafa versus Tokkos. Junior Tafa is 28 years old, 6'1", 77.5-inch reach, 241 pounds, 6-3 record overall with a 2-3 record in the UFC. Shocking. Tuco Tokkos, 33 years old, 6'4", 76-inch reach, 206 pounds, 10-5, 0-2 in the UFC. Now we're going to look at their styles. So Junior Tafa is a striker just like his brother. He is coming down from heavyweight. It's weird though, because I feel like he does not have a heavyweight frame, in my opinion. Like he should have probably fought at light heavyweight previous. Strengths for him, he's got a well-rounded MMA game. Not so much on the ground, but I think that he can break off those takedowns at times. But I think he does have that Tafa family power, right? It definitely exists in both men being the Tafa brothers. Weaknesses for him is just like he's really hit or miss, but those were all at heavyweight. Like I feel like these fights that he's hit or miss in, he's either taken like short notice fights and against guys much larger than him. But overall, I think that the area where he's weak is his grappling. Now, Tokkos is 60% of his wins by KO. Taller fighter, and he's tall for light heavyweight. Weaknesses for him, he's just unproven. He's really just unproven in the UFC. 0-2 in the UFC, just hasn't found that success yet. So it's just he's just unproven. Momentum check. So Tafa's got one fight win streak. He last fought 274 days ago. He got a win over Sean Sharaf, a KO. He lost to Valter Walker and lost to Marcos Lima before that. Got a KO win over Parker Porter, former GOAT. Tokkos, 2-loss streak, both in the UFC. Last fought 210 days ago. He lost to Navajo Sterling and then he lost to Umar Sy. He had 2 wins on the regional circuit prior to that. Intangibles and X factors. So Junior Tafa, I think, not a home fighter, and neither is Tokkos, but pressure for Tafa, I think, is just he needs to have a good showing at the light heavyweight because his record is dog shit right now. So I feel like he needs to go out there, show that he can get a solid statement win at light heavyweight. And I think that could be very telling for where he goes next and potentially get in the good graces with the UFC brass, maybe even get, because the light heavyweight division is not super deep, might even be able to get a ranked opposition in his next matchup. So if he gets a statement win. Now, red flags for him, just history of early stoppages, especially when he's out grappled. He got tapped out by a heel hook pretty quickly in the one fight. So it's just things like that. Now, Tokkos, on the other hand, he's coming off of a string of bad losses in the UFC. He definitely needs to get a win, I think, or he's going to get cut. He can gas out quickly, especially in finishing sequences. Overall, guys, in this fight, I'm going to go Junior Tafa solely off the fact that I don't rate Tokkos that high. And I just feel like because Tafa has that one hit acquit power, he has a potential to catch this dude and hurt him. But he is inconsistent in and of itself. Doesn't have the best well-rounded game when you're talking straight grappling on the ground. I think he has good takedown defense, but I feel like I'm leaning on the Tafa KO in this fight, guys. Next fight on the card, we got Vitor Petrino versus Austen Lane. Guys, this card is full of fighters jumping up and down different weight classes. Vitor Petrino is 27 years old, 6'2", 77.5-inch reach. He's coming up from light heavyweight. He's going to have that lighter man skill. 11-2 record with a 4-2 record in the UFC. Austen Lane, on the other hand, 37, 6'6" with an 80-inch reach, 13-6 record with a 1-3 record in the UFC. So not a lot of success here in the UFC. Styles for this fight. Both guys are strikers. Vitor Petrino, 64% of his wins by KO. He's dominant with power, guys. He has that dominating type power where he can change the course of a fight in one shot. And he also has grappling. If he needs to mix in the grappling, he has it. He does gas out, though. So some weaknesses for him is he had a devastating loss by KO in his last matchup. Dustin Jacoby shaved years off this man's life in that KO. And I think the thing I worry about with Vitor is the gassing out situation, because he's that guy that's the typical Brazilian powerhouse who just has a round of solid, hard punches and kicks, and then suddenly he's gassed as fuck. So That's a bit worrisome. Austen Lane, 85% of his wins by KO. Former NFL player, and I would say because of his his NFL background, I do think that Austen Lane is one of the most explosive fighters in heavyweight because of that explosivity that comes from being a professional athlete, especially in the NFL. He can wrestle if needed as well. We saw that against Robelis de Spain. Weaknesses, he's so open to counters on the feet, and I feel like his reaction timing is very slow. So that is very worrisome, along with him being chinny. Momentum, 2-loss streak for Vitor Petrino, 14-fight win streak. My God, Austen Lane does not have 14 wins in a row, guys. Sorry, that's fucked up. His last 4 fights, this is Vitor Petrino, a loss to Dustin Jacoby, a loss to Anthony Smith, a win over Tyson Pedro, and a win over Modestas Bukauskas. Those are good wins, guys. They're aging well because you got Tyson Pedro was always, highly touted, but Modestas has had a resurgence in this division and is continuing to rise up in light heavyweight. Austen Lane, not a 14-fight win streak. He just lost to Pinto in March. So he has a 1-fight loss streak. I apologize for the mistakes. 133 days ago is when he last fought. A bit more active than Vitor Petrino. Yeah, lost to Mario Pinto by KO. Very devastating there. Win over Robelis de Spain. A loss by Denise and Tafa, both by KO, guys. So that is worrisome for Lane. Now, looking at intangibles, Vitor Petrino, a lot of pressure here to get a win, guys. He's jumping up a weight class, so it's like he has a lot of pressure to get a win and prove like, hey, look, I am that guy who was this highly touted prospect that's back in the win column and ready to take on this new division. So definitely a lot of pressure for him. He has KO power, but he also has, these are red flags. He had KO power in a lot of his fights, but he also has bad KO loss, especially to Jacoby recently. Okay, looking at Austen Lane, not the home fighter. He has 2 losses. He doesn't have 2 losses in a row. Austen Lane's coming off of a bad KO loss, and I also think just aging as a fighter. It's a little bit more forgiving at heavyweight with the age thing. Now, red flags for him, it's just unknown if Petrino's power is going to translate to heavyweight. I think it will. And I think that Lane has looked good. He has power himself. It's just I don't think he can eat a big shot at this point in his career. And ultimately, guys, that is why I had to go with Vitor Petrino. I did mull over this one quite a bit because I do think that Vitor Petrino is going to be a noticeably smaller guy in this fight. You got a 6'6" powerhouse. So it's like Austen Lane could potentially win this fight solely off of just being bigger. But I do think Petrino's power will translate. And I think that if he catches Lane clean with any shot, especially his straight right hand, he's going to knock Lane out. Because Lane is just, he's too chinny, guys. I do think that Petrino will likely find that KO shot and get a win here. But he has a strong potential to get out grappled off the fact that Lane is just a larger guy and has that strength. Next fight on the card, we've got Nate the Train Landwehr versus Morgan Charriere. Nate the Train's 37 years old. Happy belated, my boy. 37. Turned 37 June 7th, the day after that I turned 29 on June 6th. So shout out to my Gemini brother and Nate Landwehr. 5'9", 72-inch reach, 145 pounds, 18-6 record with a 5-4 record in the UFC. Morgan Charriere is 29 years old, 5'8", 69-inch reach, 20-11-1 in his overall record, a 2-2 record in the UFC. Taking a look at their styles. So Nate Landwehr is like a grappling, striking, not really a grappler, more so a striker. Very high pace that Nate Landwehr puts on his opponents. And I would say his high outputs, and he has hands. So it's like he can bring his fighters or his opponents to deep water if it goes there. But some weaknesses for him is he's been open on the feet and he just seems to get caught, guys. Like in his recent fights, like even Dooho Choi, I think he lost to, he just keeps getting hurt on the feet by all of his opponents, no matter who it is. But he still has his own striking offense as well. Morgan Charriere, by the way, 12 KO and TKOs in his career. 60% of his wins are by TKO. Solid all around with his striking and kickboxing. I think weaknesses for him is he can also be open on the feet. We saw him get dropped pretty badly against Nathaniel Wood in his last fight. Momentum check. Nate Landwehr is coming off of a loss. He last fought 217 days ago. I lost to Doo-Hoo Choi. He had a big KO win over Jamal Emmers, who's very highly touted in this weight class. A loss to Dan Ige and then a win over Austen Lingo. He did get a submission win as well, so he does have that grappling if he needs it. Now, Morgan Charriere by the one-loss streak. He just lost to Nathaniel Wood 112 days ago. And before that, he got a win over Gabriel Miranda, a loss to Jose Mariscal, and then a win is Chepe Mariscal, by the way. A win over Manolo Nzechukwu. So, taking a look at the intangibles and X factors for this one, guys. Nate Landwehr is the home fighter, guys. Clarksville, Tennessee represent. He's fighting in Nashville, Tennessee. So, huge pressure for him to get a win in his hometown. Red flags. He's just not been durable. Like I said, guys, I think he's been chinny and he's been caught in his last fights. Some other variables, he's just the older fighter in this weight class. And this is an unforgiving weight class when you start to age, especially past 36. He's 37 years old. Not as defensively sound in recent fights. That's just worrisome, guys. I love Nate Landwehr. I love his style. I love how he just fucking talks that shit and tries to fucking win. Morgan Charriere, on the other hand, needs to get it used so he can get back in that win column. Not as much pressure, though. He's been caught in his previous fights, but I do think he's very crispy, guys. He's very crispy on the feet. And I want to say this, guys. I originally, before I actually posted this, I picked Nate Landwehr. I picked him. But then I had that gut feeling. I'm like, dude, there's just something weird. I originally had Nate, and I truly worry about Nate's ability to, take these shots. And I feel like Morgan Charriere, even if he doesn't finish Nate, I think that he has a potential to drop him and drag out a decision. Now, if Nate gets a KO win, guys, I'll be pissed because I wanted to pick him. But I'll also be happy because it's his hometown and I want to see him succeed. So, next fight on the card, Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Calvin Kattar's 37, 5'11", a height, 72-inch reach, 145 pounds, 23-9 with a 7-7 record in the UFC. Steve Garcia, 33, 6 foot tall, a 73-inch reach, 145 pounds, 17-5 record with a 6-2 record in the UFC. Styles for this fight. You got two strikers. Calvin Kattar is a very solid boxer, technical boxing skill on the feet, has a bit of a KO threat, but not as much in these recent fights. Now, weaknesses for Calvin Kattar, you can be caught on the feet. We watched Max Holloway put a clinic on for 5 rounds against this guy. So that is very worrisome, and he also can very easily be out-grappled in the grappling department. Steve Garcia, on the other hand, he's a striker, southpaw, kickboxer. This dude's got some motherfucking paws on him. 82% of his wins by KO, 14 KOs overall. So Steve Garcia is his fucking nickname's the Mean Steve. It's like Mean something. Fucking Steve Garcia will go out. He goes out there like you owe him fucking money. Like he's going out there like a debt collector in this bitch. I would say the only thing that I see as a weakness for Steve Garcia is he's riding a lot of momentum. And I feel like he's a strong finisher. He's going to push a finish. So it's like, I do worry like against a guy like Calvin Kattar, who's not always easily finished. I don't think he's actually, is Calvin Kattar even I can't even remember, dude. Has he been finished? He had to have. Yeah, one loss by KO, which was a knee injury. Right. Yeah, dude. One loss by submission. So yeah, as I expected, Calvin Kattar is not really a guy that's easy to get out of there just based on UFC experience and previous experience before that. But I think Steve Garcia, guys, he just has that. I think like if he doesn't get that finish initially, that's where I would just be worried. But I feel like overall, Steve Garcia has just got very solid boxing and hands, kickboxing, good body kicks, momentum. As I alluded in my previous slide there, Calvin Kattar's on a bad skid, 4 losses in a row. Now, they're not the worst names in the world. I mean, you've got some, like, the highest of talents at featherweight, before you getting to champion that he's losing to. But they're just in these fights where it's like, the Josh Emmett fight, I think, was a very arguable decision. I thought that it could have gone either way there. Now, Steve Garcia, on the other hand, polar opposite. This guy's got all the momentum. This seems like a sacrificial lamb type fight. They might just be serving Calvin Kattar up on a fucking platter for Steve Garcia to beat the shit out of. 4-fight win streak for Steve Garcia. He last fought 309 days ago. I'd like to see a bit more activity here from Steve Garcia. Very fun to watch, guys. That guy's so fun to watch in the octagon. 4 previous fights, a win over Kyle Nelson, a win over Sung-Hoo Choi, a win over Mario Costa, and a win over Shailan Naradona Beke. I had to cut his name off. It was too fucking long. Intangibles and X factors. Neither guy's the home fighter. Kattar needs a win or he's going to get cut, guys. I mean, 4-fight win streak, unless you're Tony Ferguson and Sam Alvey, which Calvin Kattar might be cut from that cloth because he has had some fun finishes and He has gotten a lot of eyes, in from that area, I would say, into MMA. But he's got to get a win if he's going to hold his spot and not get cut. Red flags, just declining game overall. He's aging, and I just feel like in his recent matchups, he hasn't really had that great of showings, in my opinion. Steve Garcia, no, the only pressure for this guy is to keep his win streak going and his KO streak going. I think right now he might be tied or even have the most KO streak, like most KOs in a row in the UFC. Like currently, I think he's up there because he has 5 KOs. I think it's 4 or 5 in a row. Anyways, I think that like red flags, once again, I just think I worry about like Steve Garcia getting very rampant with like his finishing, like wanting to fucking just beat the shit out of his opponent and then maybe getting caught and losing. Or maybe even getting like gassing out and then putting himself in precarious positions. Try to say that fucking 3 times fast. Anyways, my pick, guys, if you couldn't tell by the way I was talking that entire time, Steve Garcia is likely to get the win. Now, me saying KO method, I would say my confidence level is probably 1 there because although Steve Garcia is a finisher, Calvin Kattar's not a guy that necessarily gets finished. I mean, like he has 1 loss by finish and it was a knee injury. So overall, Steve Garcia is going to get the win on Saturday night. Co-main event of the evening, we got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. 42 years old for Stephen Thompson, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 17-8-1 record with an 11-6-1 record in the UFC. Bonfim is 27 years old, 6'1", a little bit taller. His reach is a little bit smaller, 72.5-inch reach, 17-1 record with a 3-1 record in the UFC. Styles, Wonderboy is one of the best guys. Wonderboy is not a fucking grappler striker. I apologize if that's there. Guys, like I just want you to know, I hope this template is helpful. I know I've had mistakes. I'm going to clean it up for my next one, okay? We know that Wonderboy is not a fucking grappler, though. Anyways, Wonderboy is one of the best strikers that the UFC's ever had in the octagon. Like, this guy has the level of, like, Mr. Miyagi when it comes to the karate, okay? Like, he's fucking next level. I mean, he pieced up Kevin Holland. Very long-range striking and just very elusive movement and ability on the feet, guys. Now, his weakness is he's never done well against high-level grapplers. Like, his entire career, it's been a stain, and, like, it continues to be an issue for him. He's also 42 years old. Now, the age has not shown up as much in Wonderboy's recent performances in terms of it being a bad thing for him, but it's still there, guys. Now, Bonfim, elite submission artist, 13 subs in his career, 76% win rate by sub. If that doesn't scare you against Wonderboy, I don't know what will. Weaknesses. He has a limited KO rate overall, but I do think that he has some good KOs and has a potential to get a KO if he's able to find it. But he also has a very strong grappling threat, like I said. Momentum check, 2 losses for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Last fought 281 days ago. 2-fight win streak for Gabriel Bonfim. Guys, is this matchup not literally the Calvin Kattar matchup in a different weight class? Like, it's like the sacrificial lamb in a way. But Wonderboy's still a beast. He might be able to get a win. Now, Bonfim, 2-fight win streak, 147 days ago is when he last fought. A win over Chaos Williams was a great win for him. And then a win over Ange Lusa with a loss to Nicholas Dalby prior to that. And then a win over Trevin Giles before that loss. Now, intangibles and X factors. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, guys. Pressure for him is to remain in the UFC, obviously at 42 years old in welterweight. A shitty performance here could be the send-off fight then for him. It could be him retiring. I don't think the UFC is just going to up and get rid of Stephen Thompson, though. He's a fan favorite. People love his style. He's such a good guy, by the way, as well. I think he needs to have a very competitive performance, even if he loses. Because if he has a competitive performance here, the UFC will be inclined to keep him around. I mean, he could get some more fun matchups before he ends his career. Red flags, he's easily out-grappled, guys. And, like, guys who are so good at grappling, especially like a Bonfim, it's just not a good sign in this fight. I think the pressure for Bonfim here is to get a win and get ranked in welterweight for the UFC is the big thing for Gabriel Bonfim. Red flags, he'll not be the better striker on the feet. So if he cannot secure a takedown, get that control on the ground, maybe even find a submission on the ground, if he can't do that, it's not good for him because he will not be able to keep up with Wonderboy on the feet, in my opinion. Like, we've seen other fighters try it and it never works out. Vicente Luque, Jeff Neal, Kevin Holland, Stephen Thompson got them all to play. Maybe Stephen Thompson's like so nice, but maybe the biggest manipulator, guys. Because, like, how does he get all these fuckers? I mean, Jeff Neal's always going to strike, but how do you get Vicente Luque to, like, just fucking stand and bang with you? Like, especially when Vicente Luque at the time, like, he always had the grappling threat. I don't know. Maybe like Thompson just fucking manipulates these guys into doing his thing. Overall, guys, I have to go with Bonfim in this fight. I love Wonderboy Thompson just as much as the next UFC hardcore fan, but I just think that when you compare his history with these high-level talents, especially grapplers, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is likely to just get overwhelmed in this department once again, and I feel like Bonfim will find a submission or get a decision win. Finally, the main event of the evening, we got Derrick Black Beast Lewis versus Tallison Teixeira. Black Beast, 40 years old, 6'3", 79-inch reach, 28-12 record with a 19-10 record in the UFC. 29 fights in the UFC, guys. Also holds the record for most knockouts, I think. I think he's still above Matt Brown, or Matt Brown maybe beat him. I can't remember. Or he beat Matt Brown. Whatever the fuck it is. They're both fucking KO artists. Tallison Teixeira, 25 years old, 6'7". This guy's fucking huge. 83-inch reach, very long reach as well, 265 pounds, 8-0 record, 1-0 in the UFC. So both these guys are strikers. Derrick Lewis, like I said, UFC's leader with knockouts, 23 KO wins, 82% of his wins by knockout. Very, very strong right hand, very, very strong uppercuts. Weaknesses, he's just an aging fighter, guys, can be plotty, but although he's aging, he's coming off a win or two, and he's been a bit agile in these fights. So it's like he hasn't looked horrible for being an aging fighter at 40. Now, on the side of Teixeira, perfect finish rate in his career. 1 submission, 7 out of 8 of his wins are by KO. So he's a very elite striker, very strong striker. Weaknesses for him, guys, is just, I think he is a victim of his own dominance. And what I mean by that is he has inexperience and he just hasn't shown us a lot in the cage because he gets out of his fights pretty quickly. So because of that, he's like a Tom Aspinall in that he's a victim of his own success. It's like he just hasn't been tested in those later rounds yet. And I would say another weakness I see from Teixeira, although he is very good with the range-finding jab, the very good head kicks, very great at staying in distance from his opponents, he does keep his guard very low for me. And in a fight against Derrick Lewis, it's not what you want to be doing. Momentum check here. Derrick Lewis coming off of a 1-fight win streak. He last fought 427 days ago, so a bit inactive here, guys. I think Derrick Lewis had a fight get canceled because he got sick. So that's worrisome as well. Now, looking at Derrick Lewis' last 4 fights, he's got that win over Rodrigo Nascimento, who's coming up in the heavyweight division, a loss to Jailton Almeida, a win to Marcos Lima, and a loss to Sergey Spivak. Now, the win over Marcos Lima was a fucking flying knee, if you guys remember. So that shows some agile ability from Derrick Lewis, which we've also seen Derrick Lewis throw some crazy jumping switch kicks on fucking Francis Ngannou. Like, what the fuck, dude? Now, Teixeira, 8-fight win streak, last fought 154 days ago. So he's not only the younger fighter by 15 years, but he's also a lot more active as of recent. His last fight, he won over Justin Tafa. I think that it was a justified win, guys. Like, he did drop Tafa pretty badly, but Tafa started complaining. But Tafa dropped to his knees after that elbow landed. Overall, I don't think it was a bad decision. He also got a win over Arthur Lopez on the Contender Series. I don't know who Arthur Lopez really is, so I don't know how much to write home about that. But that Contender Series fight made me think, and this leads into my intangibles and X factors, that Teixeira has a lot of moments where he gets caught on the feet. Looking at Derrick Lewis here, guys, pressure for him is just to hold his spot in the rankings and get another win at heavyweight, especially over a young up-and-coming prospect. Some red flags for Derrick Lewis. He's been hit a lot, and he's bit hot and cold. Big wins, big losses, and like the losses are big, not in a good way. It's like these are big losses on a stage where, you know, he lost twice in his own hometown, and then you have like the losses to like Jailton Almeida, and like these guys who are just able to kind of out-grapple him. And Teixeira does have grappling, guys, but he has a lot more pressure than Derrick Lewis in this fight because he has to remain undefeated, like to continue the dominance that he has in his career, and also to secure that ranking in heavyweight. This is going to be his first time, guys, at least from what I can tell, fighting a fighter who has the amount of grizzled veteran experience that Derrick Lewis has. 29 fights in the UFC, guys, and a lot of those fights are won by knockout, okay? Now, that is a big worrying factor, is that I just haven't seen Teixeira be connected on the chin by a guy who's got the power of Derrick Lewis. I saw him get caught quite a bit in his Contender Series fight. He did survive those shots, and he was beating and piecing up his opponent the entire time. Now, the thing that I worry about, though, is that his opponent was like the same size as Derrick Lewis, I believe. And his opponent found a lot of ways to get on the inside and land shots. And I think when you're talking about Derrick Lewis and the power this man possesses, I worry quite a bit about if Tallison Teixeira can actually eat the shots Derrick Lewis will potentially land on him in this fight. And that, guys, is enough for me to go with the Black Beast Derrick Lewis as the winner of this fight. I know all signs are pointing to Tallison Teixeira being this formidable force at heavyweight, especially given his build, 6'7", 83-inch reach. Guys, when you're going at heavyweight against Derrick Lewis, I have to be able to see if you can handle those shots. Derrick Lewis is a mixed bag here too, guys. If you look at Derrick Lewis's fights, he's fought guys that are this size. Alexander Volkov, Travis Brown. And although showed, areas where he could get caught and hurt by those longer, taller fighters, Derrick Lewis ultimately was able to weather storms from them. Now, this is years and years ago, so this is like a big question of the age, right? If Derrick Lewis can pull off a performance similar to the Volkov fight where he's able to weather the fight, right? Weather the storms that come from the longer, taller fighter, his power doesn't go away. So, like, if he pulls Tallison Teixeira to, like, round 2, round 3, that's where you start to see, can Tallison Teixeira handle that power? And that's the thing, because I haven't seen it, I have to go Black Beast. I think that Derrick Lewis, if he's able to survive on the feet, not get caught by something crazy from Tallison Teixeira, he could potentially and likely will catch him on the feet. And I don't know if Tallison can handle that. Now, Tallison could mix it up, get the grappling going, and just win the fight that way. But overall, I'm feeling that Derrick Lewis is going to catch him on the chin just because of the way I've seen Chin have lack of defense when he's on the feet, keeping the guard low, which is a gold mine for the Black Beast Derrick Lewis. Are we about to see, guys? Are we about to see the Black Beast take the shorts off because his balls are hot? Are we gonna see the fucking hammer fist and I don't know, home invasion, like through the window thing that he does? What do you guys think? Comment below. I know this was a bit of a shit show. Thank you guys for watching this, though. I truly appreciate it. Please subscribe to Fight Feed if you aren't already, and give this video a like if you enjoyed. And please, guys, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Who are you picking this fight card? Overall, I think this fight card is going to be a fun one. It's a live event in Nashville, Tennessee. You can never go wrong in Nashville. And I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.